I remember it clear as day, the morning I found that eerie letter on my doorstep, a day that started just like any other. The sun was peeking over the horizon, casting a warm glow across the quiet suburban street I called home. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air as I stepped outside, newspaper in hand, ready to embrace the day. But there it was, a stark interruption to my morning routine, an envelope unmarked and strangely out of place on the pristine white steps of my porch. It was an unsightly blemish on an otherwise picture-perfect setting. The paper felt unusually heavy, its texture coarse and worn. A faint, unsettling scent wafted from it, like old books forgotten in a dusty attic. Curiosity piqued, I opened it, my heart pounding in my chest. The words scrawled inside were cryptic, their meaning elusive. What I read within those lines, it chilled me to the bone. The letter, it seemed to be a warning, a premonition of sorts. The words were written in a frantic, almost desperate hand, the ink smeared and blotchy, as if in haste or under duress. The message was cryptic, filled with metaphors and allusions that seemed to dance around an unspeakable truth, a truth that was as elusive as it was terrifying. Beware the shadow that walks at noon, the silence that speaks at midnight. A riddle, perhaps, or a prophecy. It spoke of a danger, a looming threat that was as intangible as it was potent. Who could have sent it? I found it on my doorstep, no return address, no signature, no hint of its origin. Just this chilling message, wrapped in the cloak of an enigma. It was like a puzzle waiting to be solved, a mystery yearning to be unraveled. But the more I tried to decode it, the more elusive the answers became. Look not to the stars, but to the shadows they cast. What could it mean? A warning about something hidden, something lurking just out of sight? An admonition to be cautious, to be alert, to be prepared for something unexpected and possibly sinister? The silence that speaks at midnight? An indication of a time, perhaps, a moment when the danger would reveal itself, or a metaphor for something that was silent but threatening, something that communicated its menace in the hush of the night. I grappled with these words, these cryptic phrases that were as tantalizing as they were confusing. I could feel a chill creeping up my spine, a sense of dread that was as palpable as it was inexplicable. Who would send such a letter? Who would cloak a warning in such a riddle, such a mystery? And what was the danger that the letter hinted at, the threat that seemed to lurk in every word, every phrase? And then, just as I was trying to make sense of it all, the lights flickered out. Suddenly, I was enveloped in a suffocating darkness. The world as I knew it ceased to exist, replaced by an abyss of black. The familiar surroundings of my home were lost to me, hidden behind a curtain of night. My heart pounded in my chest like a frantic drummer, each beat echoing loudly in my ears. I reached out, my hands blindly exploring the space in front of me. Every creak of the floorboards, every breath I took seemed amplified, reverberating through the silence. The darkness was oppressive, a tangible entity that seemed to weigh me down. As I fumbled through the void, my senses became my guide. The faint scent of dust and age filled my nostrils, a testament to the years my house had weathered. The cool, smooth surface of the walls under my fingertips gave me a sense of direction, a path to follow in the darkness. My fear was a bitter taste on my tongue, growing stronger with every passing moment. It was not the fear of the dark that gripped me, but rather the fear of the unknown, of what might be lurking within it. With a growing sense of dread, I made my way to the breaker box, hoping to restore the light. But as I flipped the switches, nothing happened. The darkness remained, as thick and impenetrable as ever. It was as if the house itself had swallowed the light, leaving me in this never-ending night. I felt a shiver run down my spine, a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. I was not alone in the darkness. I could feel it, a presence, unseen but palpable. It was an unsettling realization, one that made my blood run cold. I stood there, frozen in the darkness, my breath hitching in my throat. I strained my ears, listening for any sound that would confirm my fears. And then I heard it, the sound that would haunt my dreams for nights to come. Then, in the darkness, I heard it. A soft whisper calling my name. I stood frozen, my heart pounding in the silent darkness. The air was thick with an unspoken dread, my senses heightened in the absence of light. Each creak of the old house was amplified, echoing in the hollow emptiness. The wooden floorboards groaned beneath my feet. The walls whispered secrets in the silence. I could feel it, a prickling sensation at the back of my neck. It was like the eyes of a predator locked onto its prey, cold and calculating. The feeling of being watched, being hunted, was overwhelming. I was not alone. There was something else with me, lurking in the shadows, hidden from sight. It was an unseen presence, a phantom in the night. I attempted to locate the source of the whisper, the origin of the dread. I moved cautiously, my steps slow and measured. The house responded to my movement. Each step answered with a symphony of creaks and groans. I navigated through the darkness, guided by the eerie whispers. As I ventured deeper into the house, the terror escalated. Doors swung open on their own accord. The wind whistled through the cracks, and the temperature dropped dramatically. I could see my breath fogging up in the cold air, the chill seeping into my bones. The rooms felt smaller, the walls closing in on me. The house was alive, its heartbeat pulsating in sync with my own. I could feel it, the unseen presence growing stronger. It was feeding off my fear, thriving on my terror. The air was charged with a dark energy, a sinister power that was palpable. I could hear it, a low, guttural growl echoing in the silence. It was a warning, a threat. I was not welcome here. Despite the terror, I pressed on, driven by a morbid curiosity. I needed to know. I needed to see. I reached out into the darkness, my hand trembling. I could feel it, a presence, an unseen entity in the room with me. I couldn't stand the fear, the uncertainty. I decided to confront whatever it was. A surge of courage, tinged with desperation, coursed through me. My heart pounded like a drummer in the wild, each beat echoing the dread that had been my constant companion since the power outage. But it was time to face it. Face whatever was lurking in the shadows of my own home. With a makeshift weapon clutched in my trembling hands, I set out on a mission that was part bravery, part foolhardiness. The house seemed to breathe around me, the walls whispering tales of horror, the floorboards creaking under the weight of my fear. But I pressed on. I moved slowly, painstakingly, like a hunter stalking its prey. Every corner turned, every room entered was an exercise in terror. The silence was deafening, the darkness blinding. Yet I could feel it, the unseen entity. Its presence was like a cold wind, chilling me to the bone, making my breath hitch in my throat. The signs were everywhere. An overturned chair here, a scratched wall there. My heart pounded harder with each new discovery. The entity was close. I could feel it. I could almost hear its ragged breath, feel its icy touch. The fear was almost unbearable, but I couldn't back down now, not when I was so close. The tension coiled around me like a python, squeezing tighter with each passing moment. My senses were on high alert, my body ready to spring into action at the slightest provocation. I was walking a tightrope over an abyss of terror, the slightest misstep threatening to plunge me into a nightmare. And then, just as I rounded the corner, a chilling voice echoed, "You shouldn't have read the letter." The voice was not human, it was something far more terrifying. It was the voice of the unseen entity. The voice of my fear, my terror, my nightmare. The confrontation had begun. The voice, it was cold, lifeless, a sound I'll never forget. It echoed through the darkness, seeping into my very soul, chilling me to the bone. It was the entity, the very same one that had been haunting me. The connection was undeniable. The entity and the letter, they were intertwined. With a deep breath, I mustered the courage to speak, to ask the question that had been gnawing at me. What did the warning in the letter mean? The air turned dense, the silence deafening. The anticipation was palpable, as if the world itself held its breath, waiting for the entity to respond. The entity's response, however, was not what I expected. It was ambiguous, cryptic, leaving me with more questions than answers. The suspense was maddening, the fear palpable. And then, just as the entity was about to reveal the truth, everything went silent. What happens next, you ask? Well, that's a story for another time.